All right, this week for health, we are moving on to our other side of our triangle. We talked about mental and emotional health, and this week is moving on to the social aspect of health. And I think the most important part of that would be healthy and unhealthy relationships. So, relationships are pretty much the foundation of your social health. It's really hard to be social without another person. So, social health is pretty much your ability to get along with the people around you. Mental health was more on how you felt about yourself, how you thought others felt about you, your acceptance of yourself, which is really attached to your social health and, how well your friends treat you and other people treat you and if you can get along with them. So there are different types of relationships that we have. If you think about it, you have relationships with your parents, brothers, sister, grandma, grandpa. Those would be your family members. You're usually pretty close to those people or have, strong bonds with them. Not always, but most of the time. We have friendly relationships where you just have like your best friend or a group of close friends or people you play your sports with or have a club with. There's romantic relationships. Your mom and dad picked each other for marriage and to start a family, and someday that will happen to you as well. Maybe. We have professional relationships. Me and you would be a professional relationship because I am your teacher. I am not your friend, contrary to what some students might think. We are not friends. My relationship with my boss would be professional. When you get to a job, it's very important to remember that those relationships aren't friendly, they are professional. So when I go to my other job at the grocery store and I'm in charge, I'm the manager, I have to remember that I need to keep it professional. Otherwise, the teenagers won't listen to me. If I'm just friendly and nice, they won't take anything that I say seriously. Same thing when I'm teaching. We have to still keep that professional level. So think about that when you are branching off into your future jobs and careers. And then we can't leave our pets out. We have relationships with our pets. They, could be friends, family to you, but they're not people, so we kind of put them in their own category. But we love animals. So, what role do you play? You have a specific role when you're interacting with another person. Are you their daughter, their son, sister, brother? Are you the friend? Are you a granddaughter, a student, etc.? So maybe if you're having a poor interaction with someone, you need to think about what your role is. If you're not getting along with your teacher, are you being the student, or are you trying to play a different role that doesn't fit that category with that person? Are you acting as, a son or daughter, or are you trying to be more in charge with your parents? And maybe that's why they yell at you. Some characteristics of unhealthy relationships. You can probably think of some on your own. What makes a relationship unhealthy? There's a lot of people that like little light bulbs will go off when we talk about this, and all of a sudden they're like, wow, I know someone in an unhealthy relationship. That could happen to you if you're looking at these characteristics and you see them in your current relationships. I urge you to reconsider those relationships or think of a way. We'll talk about ways to heal toxic relationships and how to fix them, but it could be with your friends. It could even be with your family. it could really be with anybody around you, but a lot of people see these characteristics, and if you notice a lot of them in your life or someone else's life, then that's probably an unhealthy relationship. Growing up, I had a number of friends that I saw enter unhealthy relationships, and it is not easy to confront somebody about it, but eventually they will see that it was unhealthy, or they won't, and you might have to lose that person in your life. So, peer pressure, especially with your friends, if someone is peer pressuring you to do something that you know is wrong, that would be unhealthy. Anger and emotional abuse, so yelling at you, making you feel bad emotionally. Using social status is saying, like, I'm in charge, so you have to listen to me. I'm older than you, so you have to listen to me. Using some sort of social status that they see as being better than you. So it could be older, having more money, having a higher degree, or, you know, being a level up and being a manager, or they think they're smarter than you or something. So they'll use that against you to get you to do things. Intimidation, they try to be intimidating so that you will listen to them. Minimize, deny, or blame. So if they do something and you call them out, they might minimize how bad it was or deny it altogether and say, oh, it wasn't that bad. Like, you're overreacting. Take it easy. I didn't do anything wrong. They might even blame you, like, well, I only did it because you're being dumb or something. So they will look for any excuse, but they will not admit that it was them that's the problem. Getting more serious into the unhealthy, we have threats. If people are threatening to break up with someone, something super extreme would be threatening to kill themselves. It happens, but they could threaten to hurt somebody that you love. They could threaten to, you know, say, like, oh, if you leave me, you'll never find anybody else. No one else will ever love you. These are the really toxic characteristics of a relationship. And these are relationships, if you see these last three characteristics, you should get out of those relationships immediately. Sexual coercion is basically forcing someone to do sexual acts for you. Convincing them to do anything sexual that they wouldn't normally do. It's not quite as extreme as some cases, but it's convincing them to do some sort of sexual act that maybe you're uncomfortable with. But again, more of swaying you to do something you don't want to do, just in a sexual manner. Isolation and exclusion is a huge sign of an unhealthy relationship. If your other person that you're talking to, whether it's romantic or not, is isolating you from your friends and family, saying you can't see that person, you can't talk to that person, and excluding you from your group of friends or family, then they're trying to isolate you so that you depend on them solely. And that you will be less likely to leave them because they're the only person in your life. I have seen this in real life. It has happened to people around me, and I mean, it's scary. You know, they eliminate every other relationship around you so that you solely depend on them. And that should never, ever happen. This is an example of like a video I play for unhealthy relationships. I'll put the link in the assignment box, so hopefully you can watch it. If I press play, you won't be able to hear it. unfortunately. It's a short one, but basically in the video, it's telling us that 37% of female patients treated in the emergency room for violent injuries have been abused by their partners. I'm sure that statistic has changed by now, but not saying that it's always the men being the abusive ones. It is not. Women can be abusive too. But the big issue is that people do not realize they're in unhealthy relationships, or they lack the strength to end it. So like, why do they stay in these relationships? They might think they're better off in the relationship, which you and me both know that is not true, but they don't realize that. They are so sunken in and brainwashed by these people, they think that they need that relationship. Abuse can be physical and verbal. You don't have to be physically hit or bruised or beaten to be abused by somebody. Unhealthy relationships can lead to depression, anxiety, and tension in the relationship, and it can and probably will control your life. Again, isolating you from others, and your whole life basically is that one relationship. How do we tell if a relationship is toxic? There's lack of trust. You have to justify your actions to them. Where were you? Who are you hanging out with? Let me see your phone. Things like that. Who are you texting this late at night? You give up things that you love. You quit sports or activities because that person wants you to spend all day with them. And then you worry about disagreeing, so you might not bring up an argument because you don't want to fight about it, so you just kind of push it under the rug and just let it go. You should not have to change for anyone, so if this person is dead set on changing who you are, that is a huge red flag. That happened to my best friend in high school, and I called it out right away for what it was, and it took her a while to realize that she was being brainwashed, but, she eventually figured it out. Just because someone may love you doesn't mean that they're also good for you, and just because they aren't right for you doesn't mean that they're a bad person. So if you're in an unhealthy relationship, it might not be that, they're a horrible person or you're a horrible person. You might just not be good together. Not everybody that ends up having feelings for another person is going to be that perfect, loving relationship. It's the relationship that's bad, not the person, but you need to cut ties if you see those characteristics of the unhealthy relationship. And if you keep coming back to that same person and nothing's getting better, that's a huge red flag. Breaking up and getting back together and breaking up and getting back together isn't healthy either. And then try not to be overly destructive when cutting ties with the person, because that's not good for anybody. Don't say you're the worst person ever, never talk to me again. Just, it's not working. We need to go our separate ways. I will also put this in the link. It's talking about toxic relationships and how to identify them and how to help resolve them. And then I'll talk about what happens in the video in the second part, because it only lets me record 15 minutes at a time.